name's Jit Kichin, Chief Data and Innovation Officer. And Suffolk Construction is a general contractor with a national footprint that has prided itself on its innovative processes and way of building throughout its history, actually. So let me just start with why innovate. I think I'm going to share some things with you today that's no doubt very familiar to everyone. The twin challenges of our industry is a productivity decline and also quite high risk. So, here there is a famous chart that talks about how construction productivity has actually declined year on year for quite a few decades, whereas most of the other non-farm industries have actually increased in productivity. There's a lot of challenge on this slide, whether it's actually flat or down, but all of those in the industry understand that there is a lot of opportunity to improve because we see it every day in the inefficiencies in the manual transactional processes that we have to do. At the same time, construction is a very risky industry. A lot of what we do as a general contractor is to mitigate risk, and that's time, cost, quality, and safety risk while putting up the building. So some stats here to share: 21% of all fatalities in the US are in construction. From insurance, you'll hear water is the new fire, so there's a lot of water damage on the quality side. From a cost and time overrun, 9 out of 10 major projects have cost overruns. Overruns of 50 to 100% were common, above 100% not uncommon. Similar stats on schedule. So you can see the challenges that we have today from just a work output perspective. Not on this slide, but also a challenge for us is the labor force and how we are building some of the most complex assets today with some of the youngest labor force that we had over the decades. And if you think about construction as a experience, as a apprenticeship industry, where the best builders are ones who have seen a lot of the challenges and have tackled a lot of the challenges, then the relative inexperience of the labor force today is also a challenge. And at least leading up to March, it was one of the construction industry was on a growth curve where it was a really hot market and there was a lot of work to be done. And so there was also a labor shortage. So all of this is the reasons behind why we need to innovate. Okay. So how do we think about innovation, right? And a slide here that I share is, we think about it people first. So people-centered innovation, where we can talk about innovation from a technology perspective, what new technologies are coming online, and we certainly try a lot of the new technologies. We know why we're innovating now. But what we've really learned through the years is that at the end of the day, it is people that innovate. Whether they're innovating on technology or process, data, or coming up with a new way of doing things. The people is at its core. And also, it is not about a single individual. It is often about the ecosystem that you create, the kind of ideas that you bring to bear from across the kind of stakeholder landscape that we as general contractors find ourselves within, right? So the best way to innovate is to actually create that environment that encourages everyone to innovate within their area of expertise. And they should also contribute that perspective to enrich others' perspectives. And through this kind of dialogue, this rich dialogue, we find that we come up with the best solution, right? When deciding on what to innovate on or how to prioritize the time and resource for innovation, it's also about human-centered innovation. What is first a human need? Then you bring the people together to solve that problem. And then solutions that are created also need to have a human-centered design in order for people to want to adopt that solution. So often we find that the challenges with innovation is when someone comes up with an idea, but didn't take the user in mind and say, well, this is how you have to do it. And you run into adoption challenges. And I think many people in our industry will say adoption is the biggest challenge, right? So I think by taking a kind of human first approach, understanding design and actually making it easy for people to, come on board with the innovation, that's the that's the winning factor here. So in the trio of people, process, technology, we believe people is paramount, right? By doing so, we aim to create a very different experience for employees, partners, clients, and therefore change the overall construction experience. So, you know, take employees, right? Employees today are not interested in a lot of manual kind of transactional processing if they believe there is a way to digitize and streamline that workflow. You know, they want to see information at their fingertips to help them take decisions because they're used to that now in all other areas of their lives. Similarly with partners, similarly with clients. And so a lot of when we think about innovation, we do seek to improve the experience of all of the stakeholders in this landscape, right? Lastly, and most importantly, this philosophy we find delivers the best result for the talent, for our employees, and for people in the industry for the long term. You'll hear people say that the industry is undergoing a generational change. And so through the innovation program, we seek to stimulate creativity. We seek to create leadership opportunities, build new skills, and through that refresh the workforce to take on the building challenges of tomorrow. So when we considered all of those factors, the kind of people-centered approach to innovation made most sense to us. And then in terms of scope, we actually view innovation across the built environment as fair game. You know, Suffolk is a general contractor. Our part of the value chain is construction management, but we are building a presence across the value chain today, where in addition to construction management, we have a real estate investment fund where we take equity investments alongside our clients. We have a self-performed subsidiary that handles specific scopes of work. We also have a property portfolio like other large organizations, right, where we have offices across the country. And so as we kind of build a presence across the different verticals, we recognize that there are efficiencies to be had if we can innovate across different areas of the value chain. And so we can streamline and take out some of these inefficiencies and create value. So scope-wise on innovation, we think about it across the built environment. So, well, that's good as a philosophy, but how do we actually make this come to life? We recognize that the journey from ideation to kind of market, where market can be defined as whether it's an external facing product, right, that others use, or an internal facing products that our operations use. Market is where you actually capture the value. Market is where people use you because they see the benefit that you deliver to them. But that journey from idea to market is quite a tough one. And again, adoption is difficult in our industry. So central structures and programs are needed to support the execution and the growth of ideas. Ideas need funding. They need dedicated capacity and expertise to flesh out. They need a sandbox for experimentation. They need feedback to improve. And then eventually they need a way to scale, right, if they're a really good idea. So to support innovation, we have invested in a range of structures that will help ideas scale. So on this slide, there's kind of 4 structures, if you like, at various stages of maturity. We have Suffolk Technologies, which is a corporate venture fund that invests in founders that are seeking to increase capital efficiency and productivity in the built environment. Our Colabs are these dedicated spaces and staffed with dedicated employees that connects operations in innovation. That these structures really address the adoption problem, right? Where we recognize that for our operations to adopt a new solution or a new process, they will need to be trained, they need to be aware, they need to actually tell us what their problems are. So there is a feedback mechanism from our broad operational portfolio. And so the Colabs is that structure and that space that actually helps them do that. We also have capabilities in-house. So development at Suffolk is to build the next generation of solutions that drive competitive differentiation. So certain things that we do, we believe give us differentiation advantage. and we want to do it in-house. So this is the place where we hatch bring proprietary ideas to fruition and scale it internally. And we have developed that capability to do that in-house. And then finally, R&D. R&D is a relatively new one for us. It is not something that this industry is known for doing. We have one of the lowest investments in R&D as an industry, according to external sort of benchmarks. But we believe that in certain areas, we want to explore the cutting edge ideas and technologies, fully accepting the risk of failure, because R&D is so far out that not everything that you do research on might necessarily happen. But we'll do this in collaboration with the innovation ecosystem, whether that's an external tech partner, an academic institution, an industry partner. We believe that R&D will point the way to the future, and we want to engage with it for specific use cases. So these are sort of 4 programs or structures that we've set up that actually, if you look at it, kind of helps you understand where different types of ideas can come, can grow, and then can scale. So I'll tell a little bit more about what each one of these are. So as I mentioned, Suffolk Technologies is our corporate venture program. We invest in the next generation of founders that will drive this step change in capital efficiency and productivity in the built environment. Whether not that's through a disruptive business model or through a disruptive technology, either way, right? But we're a relatively new program, about 1.5 years in, but we've made 7 investments already. You see the investments on this page and our external kind of website on here. But just to talk a little bit about the types of investments we've made. So when we look at the construction technology ecosystem, we see that there is a lot of robust activity going on now to try and solve problems, to try and digitize, and to try and become smarter in the way that we build. A lot of interesting technologies coming online. The first 2 are both image recognition technologies. One pointed towards safety, smartbit.io, and I'll talk more about them in the R&D section as well. And then OpenSpace, which is a 360 kind of image capture technology. Both are very exciting to us because we believe that there's the rise of images on our job sites give us a real opportunity to have a new data stream to look for safety hazards or leading indicators of safety hazards, right? To look for when not work is put in place as you expect them to be, to sort of switch to what OpenSpace calls a photo record of truth, rather than a written record of truth or a narrative record of truth, right? And so a lot of interesting potential for analytics based off of those different data capture streams. I think for on the upstream side, on real estate and real estate development, Y Hotel and Envelope are 2 solutions that we feel is changing the upstream real estate side of the house. Y Hotel, unfortunately, it's a hospitality industry that has been affected by the current crisis. But the idea here is very much to sort of increase the utilization of assets, of real estate assets, prior to them being sold or leased. And it is a hospitality company. And an Envelope seeks to revolutionize the kind of data landscape for real estate development by capturing large amounts of information around zoning, around air rights, around setbacks, so that we can actually understand and search for what the best development opportunity could be. Other things on this is trade hounds seeking to revolutionize how you reach out to the trades for providing a trade-specific channel, social media channel, if you like, for them to trade thoughts, to trade the quality of work that they've done, and really have that social media space targeted towards that industry. And then from a job creation perspective, simplify the channel of reaching this hard to reach population of workers, so that we can actually find the labor that we need to build the assets that we need, right? Last but not least, EquipmentShare and Agora both are in the self-perform part of the supply chain. EquipmentShare is effectively sort of a platform for equipment rentals that is enabled through IoT devices so that you can get access, you can monitor, and you can have much more information about your equipment coming out. And then Agora is one of our newest investments, which is looking to digitize the supply chain. And so that's a materials management platform. So through Suffolk Technologies, we invest in these founders because we believe that they have a vision for the future that might be a little bit further down the road, but it will truly drive that step change in capital efficiency and productivity. On the Suffolk Colabs, so what Colabs are spaces where we connect operations with innovation. They capture, nurture, and distribute technologies and processes across the organization, both locally within each of our regions, but then also share best practices so that we can lift the tide of the entire company, right? They encourage technology adoption through education, socialization, and knowledge sharing, and they better day-to-day ops in critical areas of safety, quality, performance, and customer experience. Development at Suffolk. This is about moving from just thinker to maker. We're builders, so we quite like building things. And so for a lot of the innovative ideas that we have, we like to build them and not just have the idea. Here I've sort of blanked out a project management dashboard that we've developed in-house in collaboration between data and IT. And these monitor every aspect of our jobs so that we can have that holistic view of how our projects is doing, and it refreshes in real time so that we can keep that constant monitor. Finally, R&D at Suffolk is about cutting edge ideas and technologies, exploring them, and in collaboration with the innovation ecosystem. So an example here is a collaboration we actually did with smartbit.io. It's actually 2-3 years old because R&D takes a long time. And the idea here is whether or not we can predict safety incidents to develop more this dynamic indicator of risk. So on the left-hand side, you see a mock-up of what this could look like. That's not real, that's just a mock-up because it's still in R&D. And then on the right-hand side, you see the journey. And so it reinforces why we need to invest in R&D, because that journey takes a long time. Finally, I wanted to, so those are the 4 structures that we have put in to actually encourage innovation, and different ideas that come through can get incubated and supported through each one of these structures and handed over as they become more mature, right? I wanted to talk about innovation culture. None of this would be possible if we didn't encourage a culture of innovation. A hallmark of what that could look like, one of the articles I really like is this article in the Harvard Business Review, which talks about how innovation isn't just about ideation and encouragement. It is also about discipline. So it's about discipline to tolerate failure, but not tolerate incompetence. Tolerate experimentation, but being very disciplined in cutting it off if it's not panning out. Making sure it's safe, but very candid feedback, because without feedback, we can't improve. Making sure we collaborate, but that everybody is accountable for delivery. And then making sure it's flat, but strong leadership, right? So we try to adhere to these principles. It is a journey. We're not at the end state. There are no shortcuts. But we're trying to, while we do put all of these structures in place, put in place a culture that will drive successful innovation. And then finally, I think I'd be doing this an injustice if I didn't recognize the ecosystem within which we operate. So Suffolk is headquartered in Boston, and the Boston innovation ecosystem is very robust. So we're fortunate in that. And so we work within that ecosystem. We co-invest with some of the best venture funds out there. We work with some of the best academic institutions and industry coalitions. And so through engaging in this ecosystem, we believe we can solve the macro challenges for the industry and not just the micro challenges within our own value stream. Just maybe to end on the same thought, it comes back to people in the end. So I've talked a little bit about the structures that we've put into place. I've talked about some of the stuff that we're doing right now and innovating on. But at the end of the day, it is about that set of innovative people, identifying the talent, supporting the talent, and helping making their ideas come to life that is truly enabling our innovation ecosystem. And with that, thank you very much for listening to me today. I hope you enjoyed it.